And those were visuals of Prime Minister Narendra Modi receiving the Guard of Honor in Austria. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting the Central European country of Austria, and we've been talking about the manner in which Austria holds particular significance, part of EU, not part of NATO. The kind of neutrality that it maintains is also significant. And Ambassador Srinivasan continues to be with us. There we're witnessing historic visuals. Indian Prime Minister on Austrian soil after a gap of 40 years, receiving Guard of Honor. And the point that you were making about the importance, the symbolism of Austria in this visit.
Ambassador Srinivasan?
So I'm afraid we can't hear you at the moment. If you could just check. All right, we are connected with Ambassador.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you, sir.
Yes,
please go ahead.
On, sir.
Okay, so as you rightly said, this was a symbolic visit, and we are sending a message that we are not entirely, depending on a friendship with Russia, because our relations with Russia is important, but equally important are other nations, even smaller nations. And therefore, after the visit to Moscow, this is really a goodwill visit in which he would have been able to convey to European Union leaders in some way or the other what happened in Moscow and whether there are possibilities of peace, etc. So Vienna is the place for peace, is the place for all the Vienna conventions, etc., which determine relations between countries. So it is an expression of our approach to a country like Austria, and also to signify that in this changing world, we are not going to depend entirely on one group or the other. We all know that global order has not yet emerged, and most countries are basically maintaining a kind of balance without identifying themselves with any group or any country. And in that situation, this visit to Moscow could have been misinterpreted as our putting all our eggs in the same basket.
Right.
And that is really the signal that has gone to other countries, and also that we are equally keen on developing our relations with other countries. We want a reformed multilateral world.
Yes.
And,
having said that, Ambassador Srinivasan, close on the heels of concluding Russia trip and then Austria, this also sort of reinforces how India firmly believes in multipolarity and at the same time has always pursued its foreign policy very, very independently. Just to understand from you, sir, what does India and Austria really represent in that sense of term together?
Well, independence is quite obvious. The spirit of the non-aligned movement we still maintain. So we are more multi-aligned country. We have close relations with both the democratic and autocratic nations. We are trying to keep our peace with the Chinese. And when China and Russia got together, when our best friend joined up with our worst enemy, we were particularly keen that this kind of identity and this kind of freedom must be maintained. And why he went here, Russia at that time, was not only for bilateral relations, but also one of the missions that he had was of peace. Because without peace, there is no possibility of cooperation prosperity. But there we did not succeed, but one visit was not enough. I'm sure these contacts will continue. And therefore, the independence of our country, our non-alignment, and our willing to work with everybody in a particular situation, all these have come out very well because of this combination of Moscow and Vienna.
Right, and if we go back a few days, Ambassador Srinivasan, Prime Minister's first engagement in this third term was with the G7 leadership in Italy, from engaging with the G7, many of whom are NATO members, to coming to Russia and now to Austria. This exercise in strategic autonomy that India talks about, what is the significance of that in the current world order and the manner in which India negotiates its position in the current geopolitics?
Yes, that our problems are multifold in this sense, because our basic problems is our neighborhood, for example. And China and Pakistan completely devoid of any particular good feeling in India. And deliberately, China is creating difficulties and Pakistan is doing it. So that is our main concern in our region. And that is being dealt with, but not very successfully, because every issue is brought up into multilateral bodies, and SARC is virtually dead. So we are looking for opportunities to demonstrate our commitment to the world as a whole and our search for peace. And we are willing to talk to anyone who can help us in this process. And at the same time, we need to maintain a good relationship with Russia, which has been a very close friend of ours. I have served in Moscow also. It's a multifaceted relationship, even in the old days, particularly during the days of the Soviet Union. We did not follow the Soviet Union's policies in many matters, like security in Asia. They wanted us to turn against China. We did not do that. But when the Russians made up with the Chinese, we welcomed it. But I suppose one of the messages that the Prime Minister conveyed to the Russians would be also a concern with China's interests in South China Sea and why they are planning for a Taiwan takeover. And in that sense, and the latest 2000 agreement between China and Russia would make it incumbent on Russia to help China if there is a conflict. So all these have provided us a very complicated lineup. The United Nations is virtually ineffective. And sometimes we see there is a division of the world between democratic countries and autocratic countries. And that's not something that we would like to encourage. So we'd like to be friendly with both sides. We are a democracy, we believe in it. But we do not go around selling democracy or our system to the other countries. What we do is we adjust our policies in such a way that